Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Good. That's a start. Great. Okay, we're cooking with gas here. All right. So once I've identified the property, so this one is in Plano. So I thought since our office is in Plano, we'll keep it Plano. And so my first step that I do is I go into Netris and then go into the tax rolls. And I'll just pull the address and look at the public records and kind of analyze that. So on that one, kind of pull it up. And then once I have it up, I kind of look over it and I usually print it off. And I'll just kind of make sure that the person that I spoke with or the client is the name on the tax rolls. I look at the address, make sure the address is correct. And then now this one's showing it's listed because we did actually list it, but I'll share a little information about that too. And then I look at the subdivision because I want to know what subdivision it's in, and that's located right there. And that way I can pull the comparisons in that particular neighborhood. And then I also, another information, I want to see what it's assessed for. I'll kind of write down what it's assessed for and compare what the values I'm coming up with other properties to that assessed value. And also, I also look at that, you know, how they have it down here where they've got the, that real, whatever they call it, wherever it is. Hold on a second. It's like the real, where they give you that little part. I don't know why it's not here. There it is. That real AVM range right here. So that kind of gives me an idea too. Because if say I do the comps and I'm coming up with 425, or say I'm even worse, you're almost better off going higher, coming up with higher comps than you are lower comps. Because if you get in front of your client and you go, yeah, this is worth, yeah, I'm only coming up with 350, where everything else, the tax rolls, the assessed value, and then that evaluation is telling you much higher, then it's going to make me go back and recalculate my numbers. Maybe I missed something. They're usually pretty close, though, I am going to say. Years ago, we had a big difference in what the tax assessed value was to what the values we came up with. And it's not really like that anymore. And so the other thing I want to do is I also want to see what their mortgage is, because that kind of tells me a lot too. Where are they in their mortgage? Are they under?
Terry,
are they,
this is the
equity? Do what?
I'm sorry. How did you get to this screen from Netris? I think I missed that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just back up a little bit. Okay, so if I go,
like from the main dashboard, is that where you access it?
It's on the main dashboard and it's on tax. It'll say tax across the top. Let me see.
You said tax?
Gosh, it's not wanting me to do it. All right, let's do this. Can you guys see that screen or not?
No.
No. No? Okay. All right, we're back on tax again. You can actually go in here. See where it says matrix, tax, trends, remind, all that. You can actually, in the Cloud CMA and these other ones are some to play with. They're very good to give to clients because they'll give you a whole booklet. And I know we've kind of talked about that in other classes, but those are actually really good tools to use. But you can go right here to this tax, but if I'm in Netris from here, I just kind of use the tabs up here. See that? My matrix search stats, MLS tax.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
That's where I hit that. And then you can either, it depends on what information you have. If you have the address, then put in the address. If you only have their name, because sometimes you're trying to do an evaluation for somebody and you've only got their name. And that's fine too. It's just, it's easier if you've got the address. And so once I get there and I've got their, you know, I search the tax rolls and I've got their name, the address, the square footage, which is the big one. You need to know that. And then, and just some of the little tidbits, you know, with those subdivision, and like I was saying, just paying attention to what the real value is and assessed value. And if it's been listed before, I'll do a history check on where it was listed and what it was listed for and what they purchased it for. That's another one that I'll do. And that kind of gives you an idea where you are. And so with this, that's just kind of, and I print that off, I put it, that way I have it. And so then when I'm going in to do the comparisons, we'll go back. And here was my issue before, wasn't it? I couldn't get out of that. Let me just go back to this. All right. So then I'm going to do the search and I do the detailed. And so if I'm trying to find the valuation on this house and just do a good comparison, what I'll do is I really mark all the boxes because I really want to see how fast things are selling, if they're canceling, because a lot of times, unless you do a full history check on the solds, you're not going to be able to tell whether they were canceled or temporarily off the market and then put back on or withdrawn. And sometimes that's good to know, where you can see, has their address been listed before, or are other ones in the neighborhood expiring? So I do that, and then I'll put the subdivision here. And then when you're doing that, if we have anyone that's super new, you know, you got to do that little asterisk thing at the end. That started about 2 or 3 years ago, which is really a little bit of a unusual thing. Now I go ahead and put in the zip code. That way I'm not getting Highlands of something else. And what I'll do is I'll pull that and just kind of see what's happening. I'll leave it the 90 days. Like it automatically defaults to the 90 days. I'll go ahead and leave that if I can find comparable houses. So in this particular situation, this house is 3,016 square feet. And it's 4-bedroom, 3-bath. So I'll look and I'll kind of get anything that's pretty close to that. And usually an appraiser, depending on the size of the house, will go, you know, especially in a 3,000 square foot house, they're going to go like probably 300 square feet below and above it, 300 to 400. And so I'll just kind of pick anything that's semi close to that. And this actually happens to be the property right there. But, and see, some of these are too small. You could take the 2,600. It's only 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, but you're really going to want to pick some that are 4-bedroom, 3-bath. So I may unhook that for right now just to see if I have other ones, which I do, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, but it's a little bit bigger. And see, that's 5-bedroom, 4-bath. And see, this one's temporary off the market, which is actually the same size as the other one. So I'll go ahead and mark that just to kind of see where they put that. See, so that one's pretty similar to the other one, but they listed at 435,000. So I'll mark the ones. I'll go ahead and take this one just for the heck of it, just to kind of see. And then what I'll do is I'll do a quick CMA. And this will kind of tell me of houses that are similar in the size and number of bed and bath. Kind of gives me an idea of where we're falling. And so I'll look at it and go, okay, well, currently we only have one that would be comparable to this one that's active. So I know when we put this on the market, if there were, and it's bigger, it's also bigger than mine, but in this particular case, you're going to want to know what is happening on the actives, because if there's nothing in that neighborhood and they're selling really quickly, then at that point you could be a little more aggressive on the price if you wanted to. But you're seeing like this one that's active is 104 days on the market. So most likely I'm going to want to price below that one for sure. Just because this one, and of course I'd open it up and look at it too. That's the other thing. You're going to look at the pictures and compare it to the house that you've got and just see, does it have wood floors? Does it have a lot of carpet? And kind of do that, you know, do the evaluation as far as the upgrades. And then what's currently active contingent, you know, under contract, and then with the solds. So in this particular case, you've got the, and you know, really and truly, I'd probably knock this 2,600 square foot one out because it has a pool. And just quickly glancing at it without looking at the pictures, I can tell that it's probably a little more upgraded because they went really high per square foot. And it's sold in one day or went under basically went under contract. I'm sure it was multiple offers. But once again, that's that pool thing. And you guys are probably seeing it too. People are moving out, they're wanting pools, and houses with pools, if they're in good shape, are going in multiple offers because everybody and their brother wants a pool now. They were saying, we were talking to someone else, the pool companies are like 6 months to a year in the rear trying to keep up with people that want pools. And then, so then what I'll do is I'll kind of take this, and as I'm looking at it, and say I take out that 169, I just use the 121 and the 130 because those are kind of a little bit closer to what we're looking for. And then knowing mine's a little bit smaller makes the difference too. Does that make sense? So it's not, so let me show you real quick. So when I'm evaluating it, can you guys see that screen? That one's not coming up. So it's not just going to let me stop. Okay, so let me stop sharing. And then that's interesting. So every time I change screens, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was, if you look at where the square footage of 3,016, and I took the lowest anything sold and then the highest and kind of multiplied it by that. And how I priced that house, it was $399,000. And that's where we put it. They actually wanted to go higher. And so when we were talking, some of the things that I was telling them, they wanted to go higher. They wanted to go over 400. And of course I tell them the market's going to tell you where your house needs to be priced. Like you really can't underprice a house right now. And so I think the wife wanted to go 405 or 407. And I just let her know that if you jump over the 400, then you're putting your house in a price bracket of the 400 to 425 versus staying at 400 and below, like 475 to 400. And it really does make a difference. So what happened was we put it on the market for $399, and we did go into multiple offers. But what was interesting, because I thought for sure it would go over, but our first offer was for $390. The next offer was $395. And then we got a full price offer. And then after that, one went to $410, $415. We ended up going under contract for $420. And it did make the appraisal. They actually waived the appraisal, so we don't even have to worry about that. So that's kind of one of the things to watch for too, is the appraisals. You know, even if the market does push it over, it may not appraise for that if nothing's sold. But if you can look at these comps, you can see they most likely would be able to justify a $420,000 price, even though we priced it at $399. But this particular house only had the master and the kitchen updated. The rest was original carpet, great shape, original carpet, I think it was probably original builder paint, the whole bit. Like it was very basic. And it still went 20,000 over because it was in really, really good shape. And so really on this part, that just kind of gives you an idea of where you are and where you need to price it based on the condition of the house. And really, the other thing that we talk about with whenever you're pricing is just letting them know that, you know, when we look at the sales price overall and kind of tell them a little bit about what's happening economically, and then, you know, just kind of share, like I've really been sharing that, you know, when we look at sales price, the very modest pandemic induced price drop that we had happen really happened between April and May, but it quickly turned around. So we saw March it dropped, and then April we saw it picking back up. And then once it turned around in May and June, then the median sales price in August nationwide was, I think the overall sales price was 310, and that was nationwide. But the other thing that we're looking at too, what we share with the homeowners, you know, what does it mean to a homeowner if you're considering to sell your house? You know, now really is the perfect time to put it on the market, and why is that? So they really want to know why. And really historically, the low interest rates, which is allowing buyers to have more purchase power and also afford a higher priced home, because if the interest rates are low, they can afford a much higher priced home than they could, you know, a year ago when the interest rates were higher. And then also the available homes for sale are at a record low for our area, which drive more demand and buyers to your house. So that's why it's really a perfect time to put your house on the market. Would anyone like to sell their house at this time? You're thinking of? But that's really the basic of the actual CMA that I do when I'm just pricing it. I mean, it's pretty basic. It doesn't really, you know, but I'm definitely comparing I'm really trying to keep the room count the same. You know, does it have a pool? Does it not have a pool? And if it does, say I'm looking at an area and it doesn't have a, you know, this house has a pool, the rest of them don't, then I'm going to adjust and give that pool. I used to give it 15,000. I'd probably, if it's in good shape, I'd probably give it 25 now, just because of the demand for the pools. Another thing, and you want to find at least 3 homes to compare it to, and try to stay within that 90-day period, because that's going to give you the most accurate data for that. And if you have to go back 180 days, go ahead. And if you have to go back a year, like appraisers will go back a year. But I would just be careful, because our market was definitely different, you know, last September than it is now. So I would keep it as close to the 90 days as you can. And if you stay in the area that we are, where we've got, you know, the same kind of builders and the same type of house, it's easier to stay in those neighborhoods in particular. And then also look at the pendings and what's active, and that'll give you an idea too. And then, like I said, you can go back and do the cloud CMA if you want like a more appraisal looking comparison, because it gives you an actual booklet. Has anyone ever done those at all?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's something to play around with, because it really is. It takes, well, I'm not going to do it just because it takes a lot. You got to add in a lot of information. So you're adding your subject property, and it kind of puts it up like an appraisal, and it has your subject property, and then you're doing the minuses and the pluses for the different features of the house. But it's very good, and people seem to like it too. Like if you want to hand it out or leave it with them. So that's the thing. Now, what kind of questions do you guys have when you're doing it?
You were beginning to say something about to look at the mortgage history, but you didn't get to finish it because
did I not finish? Oh,
okay.
All right. Well, let's go back. Now, here's the thing. Do I have to stop share? You guys are my guinea pigs here, because it's not letting me jump from screen to screen, and you guys just keep seeing the last one. So, okay, let's go back. I should just hit the tax, right? Okay. So if it's on this particular case, you know, you can go down here and hit these. I'm going in 3 different ways for you guys today. Right when you thought you had it, I wanted to confuse you a little bit. So on the, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so in this particular case, on the mortgage history, I want to see, do they have a mortgage, what it is? Because I actually, when we go in to do the listing, I'll do a net sheet for them. And what I do is I kind of guess at their mortgage. So if you look right here, they've got a mortgage amount of 172. And so what that tells me is they've got plenty of equity. Because sometimes you may go in to talk with the seller and you do a mortgage history and you see, you know, a foreclosure, or you see the trustee or something like that at the bottom, then you know they're having issues. Because we're going to see more of that with the forbearance and the forgiven loans, and it's piling up on the backside actually is what's happening. So when you're going to sell that house and they think their payoff is, you know, 175 or 170 or whatever they think it is, and all of a sudden all this tax and interest has been accruing, it could easily be 200. And they're just not paying attention because they're thinking, well, my last statement said it was 175. So that's something to, I've run into that twice already this past month. So it's definitely starting to happen. And that's another one. I think the tax rolls really tells you a lot. It gives you, it lets you know when it was last listed. It really kind of gives you a little bit of a value, because when you get that estimated value. So see, we listed at $399, and you see the range. I mean, that was $397, and then the range was $377 to $416. So it's not far off. So that's where I was saying in this particular case, so we know it sold for $420, but we listed it at $399. I'm within that range of what my comps told me we should list it at. So this could be a gauge for you where you're not totally off. Because that's the last thing you want to do is do a CMA, get to the house, and you're at 350, and they think they're going to get 425 for their house. That's not a way to win friends and influence people. It's not going to work. So you want to be as close as you can to that kind of stuff. And then of course with the square footage and all that. Do we have any questions?
No.
You know, we have an expert on the call today, Bonnie Monroe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you've been doing this forever. How do you do your comps?
I do them exactly the same way. And you know, sometimes when I come into these trainings, I think, okay, I've been doing this for 17 years, but on the comps, sometimes they're hard and I doubt, you know, and with the market moving like it is, but I do them exactly like you do them. Every step. The tax roll is really key to pulling out as much information as you can. And you know, I think the hardest thing is when you can't get comps, then sometimes you've got to hire an appraiser to come out and help you out. Because some properties, especially when you go out, I just sold one up in Pilot Point, and it just was, they're all very different because there are a lot of properties. And the comp that I pulled, they didn't like it. It was $300,000 under what they had been told it was worth.
Oh my word. And
so I said, I'll split the cost of appraisal with you. And it came in right at, you know, within $10,000 of what I had told them. So, but no, I mean, everything you're doing is exactly the way I always do it. And I mean, I feel like I have really good luck.
Praise the Lord. I can sleep tonight.
You what? You can sleep?
I said, praise the Lord. I can sleep tonight.
Well, and I think as fast as our market is moving right now, sellers are back to, you know, let's price it aggressively. And so as long as everything's in place and I feel good about being able to answer an appraiser for that, then I'm good with it.
Yeah. 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 And we're running, I think you guys have all heard on the Facebook and things like that you know, we're running into lower appraisals. And it's so interesting with these appraisers. Now, I personally have a hang up. I know I'm going to get struck by lightning with women appraisers. They're the ones that continue to come in low, and I haven't figured it out. Jack just got one this morning, came in 9,000 low. We look at it and he goes, "You're not going to believe it." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Kimberly Frazier." That's the, I go, "There you have it." Anyway, so our last three have all been women. So we're really, yeah. And of course, my daughter just launched a business called Woman On. So she would probably want to stab me in the eye. Yeah, stab me in the eye with a hot knife, I think. But what's interesting about that, though, is we've got to remember that the appraisers, it's just an opinion of value, basically. And so they come up with different things. So I had one appraiser tell me that I have been telling the appraisers, especially when it's been going way over, I've been saying, you know, well, we went under contract within 24 hours. We had 10 offers. It went $25,000 over. And I'm thinking that's helping. Well, with this particular appraiser, he said, well, the problem is we weren't testing the market. The market wasn't tested. Therefore, I can't give it any value for that. And I'm just scratching my head going, well, I can, because you had 10 people willing to pay over list price.
What did he mean by we're not testing the market? What
basically, he was saying that it was the fact that we listed at 400, it went to 420. There's so much competition that they don't care what they're paying for it. So it's not giving a true value. It's a feeding frenzy. So they're just paying whatever they want to. I go, but they're paying what they want to get the house because they feel like it's worth it. So to them, if you want to do opinion of value, their opinion of the value was 420.
Well, that's how much a property is worth, is what someone will pay for it. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Just what's interesting in the, that's what I think, but it's funny how they're all different. Like this one that Jack had earlier, the appraiser wrote on there, she said that because we're in a different market, what she was saying was seasonally, the market is declining. That was what she put on the bottom of it. And I was like, number one, seasonally, we're not in a seasonal market right now. Like our market isn't changing. It's shifted. You know, what we used to see in October, September, October, we were closing more, but we were starting to see probably less sales. And we're not seeing that. We're still seeing, because I just did it, just ran the numbers in Plano alone in the last 7 days. We had 42 houses. In the last 7 days, we had 42 houses that went active on the market, and 88 in the last 7 days went under contract. So if that trend has continued since April, because I track it every week. And if that continues, basically we're running out of inventory. So I don't know how someone could say we're in a declining market. And she even said the median sales price was going down. And if you, you know what, guys, golly gee, let me get the other thing that I do. This is super important. And I didn't have it for a while, and I almost had a myocardial infarction. Can you see that or not? I think I forgot to share. This one. Okay, so that's the Plano Pulse report. Now here's an interesting thing to look at that. And do you guys know how to get this on the CCAR website, or do you want me to go from the beginning? Okay, so let me go over here. All right, and it's different now. They totally changed their website. So let me take you from the very beginning. Well, now here's the scoop. I'm not sharing right now, right?
No.
I'm just keeping you guys in suspense. That's the only reason I'm doing that. So let's
Good thing we like you.
Good thing you like me. Not everybody does. I'm semi-likable. I try to stay on Bob's good side and try to be likable, but I'm not always successful. Okay, so CCAR.net. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then just go to my dashboard. See, they changed the front of it. And you can sign in with your MLS credentials. and go to resources. And then this is where you'll find all the different things. And so now you no longer really have to go into it gives you all the different cities that you want, which is great. And so you just scroll down to Plano, hit that one. My internet connection is unstable. I'm at the office. Where's Angie when I need her? Okay, can you guys see that?
Not yet. Oh, yes.
Okay, so I use this on all of mine. Anytime I'm, especially a listing, because I want them to know exactly what's happening year to date, year over year, and it really gives you a lot of detail. And as you can, some of the important, here's an interesting thing when we're talking about, you know, the 42 houses going on the market and 88 going under contract. If you look at the change in new listings right here, that's almost 5%, and closed sales is up 35. If you take those two together, you've got a 40% swing really on less houses, but more sales. So that really tells me a lot that you can be a little more aggressive on pricing, but you have to be careful. It has to be what people want. Like,
And Terry, that's a year to year, year over year from
yes.
last year,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And when, like when Bonnie and I talk about pricing aggressive, what I was saying, it has to be a product that you know people are going to want. If you want it. And sometimes as real estate agents, we have to walk in a house and really act like the client or feel like the client, look at it from their perspective and from our experience. So it's kind of a combination of both. What are buyers looking for? What are we looking for? You know, because there's certain things you've got to pay attention to that could cause the house to not be the value from the comp. So if there's power lines in the back, or you know, it's very messy or dirty, or little things like that that you know are not going to be taken care of. Or another big one is when the house sits on a street and then there's a street that goes straight into that house. You got to be careful with that. It doesn't mean that the value is going to be less. It's just less people want that. So, or backing up to a busy street. So it's little things like that that you got to pay attention. It doesn't necessarily devalue the house. Now it will if you back up to a busy street or power lines. You do have to take a certain percentage off.
What about commercial? Be back to commercial.
You know, yeah, I think it can be depending on
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the inside has to wow the outside, basically. And then you just have to allow for days on market. And just know, you know, especially an upstairs master is another one. Like, it doesn't necessarily give it a lower value. It just may take it longer to sell. And I've done several different studies on my own and just kind of paid attention to an upstairs master versus a first floor master. And they just take longer to sell from all my different ones that I've done in the different areas.
Do you feel like they sell for market value? They just take longer, or do they sell for a little bit less and take longer?
I feel like they just take a little bit longer from the ones that I've done.
Okay.
I couldn't tell that they were selling less.
Okay.
Now, if it has a pool, it's not going to matter at all.
Exactly.
Right now. Yeah. Put a pool. Just put a little kiddie pool in the back and hope for it sells, you know. But on this, back to this, the Pulse report, especially if you're going into an area that you aren't aware of, it really just kind of gives you, you've got how many, you know, your days on market, you've got, you know, really your month's supply of inventory. So basically you've got your absorption rate of how many houses are on the market versus how many have sold in a certain period of time. So that kind of gives you, and then you can look at the new listings. Last year we had 433, this year only 413. So, I mean, it really does. Look at the difference there. In 2019, 3711. I mean, year to date, 3217 of new listings. That's a lot. That's where that number is coming. Well, no, that's where that number is coming. But It's a big difference. You can kind of see the trend. And you can do that for all the different cities. So if you go back and you can just pull up whatever city that you guys want. And I think that's kind of it. That is that in a nutshell, to kind of give you the overall picture of everything. And this graph is pretty good too on the median sales price. So see, like when that appraiser said that the prices are going down, like look there. I mean, I'm not sure what she's smoking because she's not looking at the same thing I'm looking at.
Do you challenge your appraisals when they come in low?
We have the buyer, so I'm not going to, but if it was the seller, I would definitely probably, because she's in my phone, I've used her before. I would definitely have had a conversation with her. I may still call her and ask her about where she's getting her data on why she felt like it's a declining market. It was a house in Allen.
Really?
So, it was actually a newer townhome.
Wow.
And she also did something I've not seen an appraiser do. She took this house that was it was a townhome 2 years old and compared it to brand new construction.
That's
I've never seen that either. So she's done several things. So I wouldn't mind asking her in a non-threatening way. So she'll at least kind of open up and tell me. And that's the other thing too. Appraisers will talk to you. Like if you call and say, hey, I'm just trying to understand how this works. And can you help educate me on this to see where we are, what, you know, and ask the questions that you need to. They'll spend time with you. Do we have any questions that I can help anybody with? No?
Thank you, Terry, for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So hopefully that helps everyone kind of get an idea of, and if there's ever anything that you need, I can put my number in the chat if you need to call me. Or am I still sharing? You're seeing me waffle around here like this?
Harry?
Uh-huh.
Harry, got a question. I'm looking at a duplex for a buyer, and within the neighborhood, there is no other duplex that sold or currently sell. So how am I supposed to compare a duplex with a regular single?
Yeah, and I've had that happen too. So I would go out, I would try to go out like 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. Are you in Plano or are you in another city?
Plano 75074.
Okay, so I would stay within that zip code of 75074 and see what duplexes. And I would probably, with the duplex, even go back a year to try to get the same, try to find something comparable. Because it is hard on the duplex. I've had that issue too. Try to stay within the zip code. And if you have to do all of Plano, I would just be careful on 75075 versus 75093 or 75024. Because there definitely is a difference in the houses that are selling on the west side versus the east side.
Yeah.
One of these days that stigma is going to go away, but right now it's not.
Yeah. So since I'm inexperienced, so between a duplex and a regular single family home, how much of a difference?
You know, I don't know if I could actually put a value on it. In some cases, there may not be a difference at all. It really just depends on the product, where it is, the condition it's in, how old it is. I mean, there may not be a difference like price per square foot at all. And then again, there may be. And a lot of times people like if it's a whole duplex and not just the half, that's kind of a big seller because there's a lot of people that want a full duplex, like both sides. So they want to live in one, rent out the other side. But I would take it zip code and then take it, you know, go so many miles out, then take zip code. I'd probably just do zip code. It's going to be easier because you're going to stay in the same. And if you can't find it, go 360 days back.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome. I can't find my chat, but any other lovely questions that Bonnie would like to answer?
You know, I do have one thing to share.
Mhm.
I don't know how you do, if you meet your appraisers or how you do that, but I put on showing time that they have to call me.
Mhm.
Not that they can just call showing time and make an appointment, because a lot of them will just kind of sneak in, you know, with
Mhm.
like 30 minutes or an hour notice. I make them call me so I can talk to them just for a second. And I ask them if they're okay with me sending updates and upgrades, a list,
Mhm.
and any comps that I have. And so far, I feel really blessed and lucky that over the last, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years that I've been doing it that way, they're super responsive. So I just email it to them. And I put a little thing in the email about, you know, thanks for all your hard work. I know you guys are really busy, blah, blah, blah. Just a little, you know, kind of a suck up,
Mhm.
if you will. And I feel like everybody's been super nice and super easy, and we've met value, versus meeting them there and maybe taking up their time there at the house. Do you meet them there? Do you guys meet them there, or what do y'all do?
I don't meet them there. I do the same thing you do. I give them a call, and because really how well, you know, our assistant Janice, her husband's an appraiser. So I get all the kind of inside scoop. And whenever we get one, he kind of helps us with the verbiage to talk to the appraiser about it. So we're kind of using their language.
Yes.
But I do the same thing. I just kind of call them, but all of them do their preparation ahead. Most of them do their preparation ahead of time. So by the time they're looking at the property, they've really done all their homework. So in a lot of cases, they will go ahead and ask, but I give them a call. When I see that the appointment comes through, I give them a call and just say, hey, I know you're appraising. Just want to let you know, these are just exactly what you're doing. Here's the upgrades. They've put in this. It's a newer roof. They've got a new air conditioner.
There's a lot of stuff they can't, you know, a lot of stuff that goes on, they can't see, they don't know, they may miss. So I think if you just give it to them in writing, it gives them something to work with so they can make value. Because I think for the most part, they all want to make value if they can.
Right. They do. I think they do too. I think in the majority of them do want, because they have, you got to remember, they have the, you know, actual sales contract in front of them.
Right.
So, but they also, I know Janice was telling me that whatever appraised value they give on that property, that stays with them for 5 years. So if that actual property defaults, they go back to the appraiser and say, hey, you gave this value of, you know, 350,000. The people only had 5% down. Now it's only selling for 300, or whatever the reason is. They defaulted. So I think that's one of the reasons why they're so cautious.
Well, and don't they have like certain, well, I know they do, but they have certain guidelines they have to follow, and numbers to use and whatever. And so I think they're a little bit bound to the limitations that they have sometimes. But
yeah, one of the big no-nos that they absolutely do not like, that real estate agents do, is we say price per square foot, and they go, we do not use price per square foot. We never use price per square foot. And I understand where they're coming from, but they put a price per square foot at the bottom of that sheet on that first page where it has subject and property 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And on each one, and each one of them, they have price per square foot. But if you look at it and they adjust for square footage, it's never that value of 132 or 120 or whatever it is. It's almost like an $80 or $90 value.
Because it's usually just floor space, like an attic, or, you know, they made something a little bit bigger, but it's not, you know, it's not plumbing. It's not a, you know, a kitchen, a bathroom. Yeah. It's nothing expensive, so it doesn't get the full value. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then always remember, 1-stories sell higher per square foot than a 2-story typically, just because it's more expensive to build out than it is to build up. So that's something to keep in mind too. So never compare 2 stories to 1 stories. Always keep a 2-story. I think I forgot to tell that. Keep a 2-story in the 2-story range. And then other things like pools, an extra bedroom, extra bathroom, you can kind of add a little value for those. You know, like I think they'll give $10,000 for a 3rd-car garage, $5,000 for a bath, or a half bath, I think it is. You know, we had an appraiser come to the office, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago. And they gave us an actual sheet they used for adjusting. And then now I've asked several appraisers if they have it, and they go, oh no, we don't do that. And it's, once again, opinion of value. So I'm not sure exactly what. I think they all adjust according to however they want to adjust. But there is guidelines. Because now more and more we're coming up with, I think we talked about this on another call, the solar panels, and we're going to be seeing more and more of that. And that is super fun. So that's a whole other class. I want to be a solar panel salesperson because they're feeding a lot of, they're selling something and they're selling it well.
We should be a pool builder solar panel company.
Right.
We've got enough kids
Yeah.
between us,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah. So when they're swimming, they can electrocute themselves or something. After they've spent their $30,000 for the solar panels. But anyway.